Hello YouTube and welcome to the final episode of my Monogatari reaction series. Back here again today for some more Monogatari, that being in particular Zoku Owari episode 6. We made it. It's the end. It's a little bit sad, but I'll talk about a lot of that next week. I guess I'll get this right out of the way. Now, it is my last Monogatari video. I'll probably do some more down the line when new things happen, maybe, with Monogatari, as is implied at some point. Fingers crossed. I like Monogatari, so I want there to be more. But more pertinently, next week there will be a Monogatari tier list video where I'll do a number of tier lists. And this is an open request to everybody on Discord to at me, send me tier lists, even if they're kind of funny, like best Monogatari like hair or something, or most outrageous moment or something like that. That'd be funny as well. Not just the really generic ones like best character, best episode, best arc, blah 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 blah. I'd like to make it a little bit more fun, at least a little bit sometimes. But either way, that's getting ahead of myself. I have an arc to finish here today. The episode is like half an hour long, so looking forward to that. It's going to finish up this arc, and I've also got 4 YouTube comments to look at, which I'll bring up very, very shortly. I'll give proper shoutouts to people such as Gian Bueno, who have commented like a ton on the series, probably next week. I'll collect some names together, which is no shade if you're missed from such a thing. I appreciate each and every small piece of feedback that I get on the YouTube comments. It shows that you're engaging with it, which is what I want. And yeah, for the record, these 4 comments today are quite good. I just read through them again. Then, yeah, they'll bring up some good points and some jumping off points for discussion, I think. Again, starting here, Gian Bueno. Even though you didn't have a good impression of those episodes on your first watch, you still managed to bring out an outstanding discussion. I don't know about outstanding. We got something out there that was better than what was previously presented. Yeah, and upon editing, I was reading through that episode once again, and I'm like, yeah, there's actually like a ton of stuff here. I was just cranky, like a child. But yeah, I am proud of myself that I was able to pull back myself and not ruin the entire thing, which I guess we'll talk about in another comment in a moment. We have a lot of comments going into this as well, which is one of my main discussion points, even in the aftermath on Discord and that kind of thing. It's tough, right? Individual episodes, like analyzing it when it's clearly part of an entire arc that is an actual story, it makes it hard. I've had some good moments with it. So specifically, I'm thinking the reveals at the end of Suki Monogatari blew my mind. Blew my friggin' mind. Where if I just watched the arc all the way through, I don't think it would have blew my mind as much because I wouldn't have been so focused on everything else and then the rug pulled from under me, so to speak. The other one would have been Owarimonogatari. I think I had some really good investigation stuff there where I figured out some stuff pretty early and I thought it was quite nice. Quite nice. Oh, and obviously Augie Dark as well, which I was kind of going crazy. I'm like, what's even the point here before like the one thing clicked? And I'm like, oh, that's exactly what they're talking about. Okay. Specifically, the movie into episodic structure, like it's very weird. Again, TV is written like TV for a reason. Most TV is presented in a way that wants you to watch next week, so it's going to present some kind of thing that you want to see solved, or some kind of catharsis in one piece of sit down time where again it's written like a movie. That's not how that's going to work. So yeah, I don't love the decision specifically for this arc for Zoku Owari to watch it individual episode. Like I would vastly prefer to watch it as one. And again, in the future, I've done this a lot. If you find another sucker like me who's going to do this thing, make sure you make them watch this one all at once. I think it's very important. Now onto the good stuff. I love how the color scheme kind of changes to that of Bake's when Araragi puts back on the uniform. I went back and had a look at this. This is masterful. I don't know why I didn't pick this up. This is fantastic stuff. Like color design genuinely informing the character growth, or character regression in this case. And yeah, we're going to discuss these concepts more and more. Why Araragi seeing himself as like a blight on this world in a way, and reverting back to that same old mindset. And then if we're reverting to Bake's colors, right? I've got some broad predictions around Senjukahara. I think there's something going on here. They're cooking a little bit, I think. And we finally get the answer to the biggest and final mystery of the series. Why the hell was Augie a guy in Hanamonogatari? Hardy, hardy, ha. I like how that goes all the way back, though. That's kind of neat. Yeah, sad to know that it's coming to an end, but happy that it happened and hope that Shaft animates more in the relatively near future. I really hope that they would. I would think it would be a good business decision as well as a creative one. It just fits, I think. Next comment here from Oshi. I think you should have watched the last 3 episodes in succession if you feel this way about the arc. I've kind of changed my tune from... I'd imagine you watched the video I told everybody not to watch, which a lot of people did, which is, to be expected. But yeah, I did say during it, I'm like, okay, I should just watch this third one now, knock it over, and then we can move on to something potentially better later on if I'm really not enjoying the arc. I'm very, very happy I pulled myself back and said, hey, no, we're going to give this the effort it deserves, I think. So yeah, I changed my mind, I think, along the way with that discussion portion, like the day after. I've come to understand things a little bit better. Nisio is the kind of madman who likes to string together pieces of stories in such a way that putting them all back together, back to back to back, is probably the best way to watch it and full understanding and context of everything. Yeah, it's... Again, I think it would be best to suggest people to watch full arcs at a time. This may get a little bit weird with Nisei, because they're very long, and kind of meander a lot. But I digress. Like, listen, I've had some good moments investigating things and breaking down specific episodes, and I think if I watched everything, like 5 episodes back to back to back, I wouldn't give the early episodes as much love as the later ones, which have all the information in them. But I can see the appeal if you're not making YouTube content about it. You should just sit down and watch an arc at a time. And yeah, this is a common theme as well. Both of these arcs I didn't fully appreciate on my first watch, but on rewatch I enjoyed them a lot more. That with Monogatari and Zoku Owari. Coincidentally enough, both involving all the kind of Saruga side of the family. Not Saruga. What's the Gaian? Why am I so stupid? Either way, yeah, this was the vibe, right? Monogatari was weird because I think, like, I initially loved it. I thought it was great as it was airing. As I watched those first couple episodes, I'm like, this is fantastic. Then it kind of just, like, the pacing kind of gets you. It's very, very slow. There's some great moments, of course, but I don't really love it by the end. And then with all the context that happens after, I think it's grown in my estimation since then. So kind of on a bit of a Monogatari roller coaster, a little bit. Moving on to the next comment by Hot Wheels Kid. One thing about the bath scene is it's way less horny in the books, like a lot less. Araragi isn't genuinely ogling her, and Gaian's insistence that she is just teasing him and making him increasingly uncomfortable. Again, I can imagine myself in Araragi's position if there's something about it, like a grown woman that's very, very outwardly sexual that is kind of intimidating to a teenager, I think. I think a common trap that the anime onlys fall into is that thinking Araragi is way hornier than he actually is. I think we've given some genuine analysis to his horniness, I think. Like, it being a lot POV based and it being kind of based on a lot of self-hatred in a lot of ways and why am I like this and that kind of thing. The anime definitely plays it up, I'll say that. But plenty of times I've said throughout the series that there's plenty of subtext going on. The trademark example being Neko Kuro with the whole skirt stuff. And there was another one, Monogatari, there was skirt stuff as well that had a ton of subtext, right? I think it's very easy to, make bad faith arguments about Monogatari based on it. It's not my kind of thing. It very, very much isn't. Again, you've seen my entire series on the subject, right? But I understand it. I respect it, at least, I think. And at the very least, it makes Monogatari unique. It differentiates it from its peers. Not that it needed it, but like a Monogatari scene in this vein is very different from another show. And I like that a lot. I like something different. And I hope that we've made good on this, kind of seeing through a lot of the facade a lot of the time. I hope we have, as we've went through the series. Last comment here today, Venomous. Haven't commented on as many videos because been busy. Fair enough. I'm very busy too. I'm almost too busy to make these, but I digress. Again, the same discussion point we've had. Zoku probably needs to be consumed as a full thing, right? Not episode by episode. But to say something specifically about the episode itself, I like the Gaian scene a lot. Many characters have some version of I know, I don't know X throughout the series, and in the end she just shows up to say that none of it actually matters if you don't understand it. I think with the context of this arc and many of Izuku's scenes from before, it seems to me that Izuku's obsession with knowing everything is basically her attempt to be escaping Toei's shadow, which I love this interpretation. I think it fits perfectly and really recontextualizes Izuku, right? In her grand wisdom, grand control over everything, she's still just as troubled as everybody else and still trying to escape this shadow, right? And what an effect that Toei has had on the show. She's been dead for many years, but Kaiki is still bound by it, so is Saruga until Hana at least. Araragi is touched by it, the Rainy Devil itself being instrumental in the creation of Orgi. This is just speculation, but it makes me wonder if much of the Specialists Occult Research Club may have been inspired by her as well. I suppose it would have, at least indirectly, if Izuku was its leader and founder, considering the inspiration that Toei had on Izuku. Bit of a funny one, but after Zoku, I started viewing Izuku as a cute younger sister figure. She's such a tryhard. Maybe that's because I'm an older sibling and I feel this way, but most younger siblings seem to have this conflict where they're not quite sure if they want to surpass you or not be compared to you and build their own identity. They want to be their own person even as they emulate you. Toei being this larger-than-life figure makes you wonder just how much it impacted Izuku growing up. There might be a hint of an inferiority complex there. I think this comment's great. Putting my own personal context on it, I'm a middle child, so I'm kind of seeing both here. Where yeah, I definitely feel the younger sibling angle to this, right? Where again, I have an older sister, so not wanting to completely follow in her footsteps or anything like that, or build my own identity. This is more like high school stuff. I'm kind of come to terms with it now that I'm an adult, at least allegedly. But yeah, I definitely felt this a little bit growing up. It's so much of going to that new school and everybody being like, "Oh, you're blank's brother." Yeah, I am true, and trying to outlive that shadow a little bit. The other one is I have a younger brother, and if you have like a brother at all and you're male, you guys probably fight like a lot. Physical more than emotional, which is generally the other way with the sisters. And I could definitely see the frustration there being compared to me at points. And that kind of thing, like moving from there. But he's genuinely built his own thing. He's very different to what I am. So I don't know. Like, I kind of see it. I kind of see this interpretation. I know there's more of the story. I know that Izuku's probably involved more and more as we continue. But I do like this interpretation a lot. And now that I've managed to ramble for that amount of time on the YouTube comments, I guess we'll summarize a little bit. We're basically just meeting up with Orgi. It's heavily implied that Orgi is the creator of this world, as Araragi is. There's some kind of like, this is like Orgi's world, as Orgi is a person. You know what I mean? Like, it's very proper, it's very correct, it's very everywhere in between. It's almost like this world is being generated as advertising for Araragi to change his tune even still again, right? As he's in this weird flux state. Like the Yotsugi stuff where she's like, you should maybe just settle and live here. Like, I think that's a little bit telling. I guess the most important stuff as we jump back in is there was the stuff with Small Hanakawa, who said that we're getting close to figuring out the mystery, and Araragi seeing it all. He needs to see something from his partner. And then I was very rude to myself last week, and now I'm getting the brunt of that. Thank you, last week. I think for the record, Senjougahara has been important this whole time in pulling some strings. I think she was the one that was telling Black Hanakawa to do what she needed to do, and maybe has been doing some other stuff beyond that. As I talked about before, I think the color change, the back to like the Bake colors and like the going back to the high school and going back to that classroom is very, very telling. And we're going to need a similar person, that being a Senjougahara type, probably just Senjougahara, to get us back out of this stupor. I do think the uniform stuff's interesting as it pertains to identity and stuff as well, as Araragi is seemingly, again, in that flux state between high school and college, doesn't really understand what his identity is at this point. Yeah, interesting stuff. And yeah, we're going to dive in here to the last half an hour of Monogatari, everybody. It's very, very exciting. So yeah, shill stuff, I guess, even though it's probably kind of pointless at this point. But yeah, you guys should like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't already. Of course, there's going to be a poll at some point to replace this, and I want the Monogatari fans to have a big say in that. So again, like, continue to support the channel and that kind of thing. That would be great. Comment on the video. I'll probably do comments next week in a separate thing, similar to how I did Symphogear when I finished that, or maybe just do them through Discord. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter and I'll follow you back on Twitter, and the Discord. You guys should join Discord, vote in polls on Discord, talk to me on Discord and stuff. It's pretty neat. I like the server. And yeah, diving into episode 6 of Zoku Owarimonogatari right now. Rightio, I have episode 6 up there ready to go. Pop that up on screen. 32 minutes and 12 seconds on this one, so again, a bit of a longer one here today. I've got those Edo subs, there'll be a picture-in-picture in the description below, and I think I'm just going to give it a 3, 2, 1 and jump into the final episode of Monogatari. At least for now. So yeah, just a 3, 2, 1. Radio? 3, 2, 1. Go. Be nice if I had subtitles. That'd be good. There they are. So yeah, obviously all these episodes are going to start with the opening every time now, because now that I know it's like a movie, like they're just going to chuck it in, right? This opening's at least like relatively cool, I think. Oh, and then that's probably like on each side of this, you would have Guy and Toy and then the Rainy Devil, like the arm. It's kind of crazy how that arm is so important as it is, even at this late stage, considering that's like the third arc. Hello, Koyomi Reverse. And hello, Augie. Yeah, kept you waiting, huh? Yeah. Reversed Augie. Well, that's cool. Well, what are you doing? Indeed. Who did it belong to? Oh, okay. No, it was the Augie classroom. Gotcha. I don't know why that's a distinction. Oh, I guess it was like, didn't belong, right? Weird. I'd even go as to say the birthplace of the show. At least from an emotional point of view. It was just a prank, bro? Did you just say? One of your good points. I mean, if you like that kind of thing, sure, go for it. Your partner. But if you're here, I think Araragi may have been barking up the wrong tree somewhat, and simultaneously me. Okay, sure. Overthinking's better than not thinking. Mm-hmm. Okay. Look at those discs disappear. Not really. Because I think that'd be kind of lame. I'm very confused. Oh, he looked like he was serving there. He looked sexy as. What the hell? Yeah, and before that. Yeah. Yeah. This is the events of the show. Probably in order, honestly, too. Very briefly, yeah. Ah, bro. She's an alternate. Well, I liked that too. That felt familiar. What, everything was a dream? I don't think that's true either. Okay. What if everything was a dream? I don't think it was, though. The music's telling me to take it seriously, though. Oh no, was it? You're definitely more built than you were. I think you're a bit bigger. Maybe that was just like a character design thing. Yeah. What a nice dream. Okay, let's do it all again. Very evil. It was a test. You passed. Or she's just trolling you. She does that as well. Ah. Yeah, I've heard that one before. Indeed. I like the shading there. It could have been Sodachi's or something. I don't know. Okay, that's very simple. I remember the symbol on the, yeah, pretty good. Well, I did see a reflection, right? I'd have to imagine that's a very hard effect to do, actually. I mean, it worked, kinda. Well, that's cute too. It's almost like the planetarium. Yeah, this is a good question. Is this Orgy World? Okay, that doesn't really answer my question. Okay. It's true that did happen. Yeah, who the hell is Araragi Koyomi in this world? I mean, Sodachi mentioned it briefly. Yeah. Yeah, she is. It's a weird way to say it. That's kind of scary. Executed? Yo. Oh, yeah, I agree. I don't think that was the right thing either. I agree. That's nice. Empathy is a very important word there. What are we doing? Indeed, there's been a lot of mirror stuff. I don't get what she's saying, and I don't get her point. What? There was a lot of arc there, yeah. Okay. Is a mirror a room? Don't know. Oh, that was very quick too. I'll need to pause that. Oh, okay. End of Evangelion? The TV one, I mean? Okay. I don't understand still, but sure. Okay, but at least not consciously. Okay. Yeah, but one and the same. That's very pretty shot as well. Two moons. Settle down. Kunibiki Legend, too. I'll need to look that up. Okay. Holy fuck. What just happened? Okay. It's very pretty again as well. Probably. You probably already fucked up. Okay. Sure. Yeah, we've been through all this. Yep. I like the organ in the background too. Sure. Still going with that one? Okay. That's very specific and something that does happen. Yeah. And now we're going to make the other characters face a similar choice. Probably, yeah. Oh my god. Not a suicidal orgy. Well, you did provide a lot of information. I'll give you that. No, I'm going back to my world, even if things are going to be a bit weirder. Get that 20% or whatever. I want to move on. I like that line. Okay. Those are some very Monogatari shots. Okay. Can we leave the classroom? Yo, she's cool. It's the titular Augie Dark. Just a little bit of darkness. Wow. Black Mirror. Whatever was lying around. Okay, that's clever. Okay. When did this turn into a math equation? Oh, it's cool. I don't know. Who needs a reason for anything? A manifestation of you being unsure of yourself? Ah, that's kind of scary. Oh, it probably has to do with the thing you were talking about directly before it happened, I would think. You're Araragi. Keep flip-flopping on that. I thought it wasn't lazy anymore. Ah, okay. That'll probably convince the mirror. True. No, somebody save Augie. After all this time. Did you forget another thing? Oh, that's nice. That's very pretty too. I think we're back. At least kinda back. Hello? Oh. Okay. So you didn't even show up in the mirror stuff. So why are you dressed like that? Not that I'm like complaining. I don't know, it's pretty rad. So much of Monogatari is silhouettes, so I'm like, who the fuck is this? I like the clap too. On the street sign, hello Monogatari. Let's go. But it wasn't though. What do you mean by that? Okay. I'll continue to be me. She just does shit. I don't know. Yeah, the moral of the story wasn't that I was, you know, infidelity, whatever the base word of that is. The music this episode's been killer, by the way. Well, yeah, everyone else is like fucked up now. And of course, yeah, the specialists being more aware now too. Sure. I was curious too. Why am I focusing on this car? Don't know. I don't know, kind of something just happened. You've got plenty of regrets. I don't know. Uyukuru Sodachi? Well, it's 20% stuff. I don't really understand that. Okay, the regrets were numerous. Okay. Yeah, like years sooner, true. Yeah, but I mean, then we wouldn't have a story. You know what I mean? It needs to be an inciting incident. I don't think anybody does. I think it's well good enough. And that's what the mirror represented? Kinda. I'm more interested in how this works as like a catalyst for everybody else. Off. Oh, and that's why. Okay, sure. You just won't ever be in the show. He didn't fail, by the way. Just in case you guys were worried. Hey, look at all the street signs and the traffic lights. Hey, yo. There's no rules. You can do whatever you want. No, listen, nobody cares. If only there was some kind of aberration to help me decide. Jump? Jumpu! Ah! Jump scare. No, it was Jumpu. Good. Okay. Thought it was spread your legs open. That's very pretty. I like this. Oh, maybe they did intend for this to be like an ending, because this feels very ending-like. Oh, that was very similar to the very start of Bake, but with Hanakawa instead of Senjo. Sure. Do we get an EDA? Not really. I think that's it. Oh, it turned into pixie dust. Okay, goodbye. Oh, we do get an EDA. It was okay. That was alright. It was very simple. It was very, very simple in the end, I thought. But convoluted at the same time. Like, lots and lots to talk about that extra 20% and whatever that might mean, and contrast between dark and light that, again, we've talked about basically throughout the entire show. That could have many, many meanings. Again, what I'm most interested about is how this works as a catalyst for everybody else. I'm pretty sure Araragi's in a pretty good spot by this point. He's going to keep on being Araragi Koyomi, for better or for worse, right? He's going to keep making those similar decisions. And having regrets along the way. Like, people that say, I have no regrets, I don't believe them. Everybody has small regrets everywhere. But it's how you make good on that is the challenge, right? How you feel good in your sense of self. That's what matters to me, at least. So yeah, it was very, very simple from the Araragi point of view, I think. And we kind of danced around the subject a lot with Orgi. But there's definitely more story there too. For sure. Oh, that was cute. Like the change in the ED as well. Okay. Is that it, everybody? Am I waving goodbye for good? I most certainly am waving goodbye for good. So yeah, we'll bring it up and give it another look and see what we can see. And we're back for the last analysis portion of the last piece of Monogatari. For the record, down here, I think this stuff serves as a very, very good payoff for the entire series. I think this sits very, very well as a final ending. That being the kind of jumping Senjugahara. It's all very beautiful. The traffic light metaphor brought in as it specifically pertains to, again, a lot of the signage stuff with Senjugahara, a lot of the traffic light stuff with Orgi. It's just fantastic. Jump in head first, brings in a lot of the theme about regrets in. That's sitting really well with me. I really think that's quite excellent. But back to the start, I guess, yeah, like, that was very good. But again, it was relatively simple, I thought. So again, the show kind of matched me on that in a way that it didn't on other stuff, I think. Like, at certain points I've been like, well, that wasn't simple at all and you thought it was simple, or that was like really complex and you thought it was simple. Like, this one's sitting right with me. They say it's simple. I think it's pretty simple. It's basically like what I what I attached myself to very early, like episode 1 stuff, before everything else got in the way. I basically got the answer straight away. It was a weird flux state where Araragi was unsure of his identity, and him reaching out into that mirror because his reflection in the mirror doesn't match his personal perception at this point in time until he just admits it to himself is great. And how that explodes outwards will be interesting in the future. We've already seen it take place somewhat in Monogatari, right? So I'm keen. I see what we mean by, like, this leaves room open for future stuff whilst closing the book on a lot of other stuff. I don't think there's much more Araragi stuff to be even had here, right? He seems to have come to terms with the process of regrets, which has been so much of, like, building stories for his characters, like late in the seasons, right? Like, oh, here's this thing that I forgot about conveniently, right? Here's this other thing that I forgot about. Here's this thing that I didn't quite interpret correctly in all the Orgy stuff, right? I didn't quite see what I should have saw immediately, right? Now that he's come to terms with the process of regret and of discovery, I don't see that there's much meat on the bone there, but I could be wrong. There is a lot of novels, and Araragi does tend to be the main character. Either way, the episode structurally is very Monogatari in that it's basically 2 very long conversations. It's one very long conversation with Orgi, which again is a metaphor for Araragi discussing it with himself, so he's just kind of sitting in that classroom thinking about it, at least a little bit. And then, yeah, so here are the things we learn. It's very hard to summarize in a plot sense, right? Because not a lot of plot actually happens. It's basically just 2 characters hashing out the details of what they think is occurring and then coming to a conclusion by the end that ends our little mirror world little phenomenon. So first things first, I keep saying mirror world. It's not a mirror world. It's the same world. It's just that Araragi has brought out the mirror in everybody else. So he's kind of pulled the mirror out of the mirror. He was responsible for this the entire time. It wasn't some third party, even Augie at this point, that pulled him into the mirror or out of the mirror or anything. He was fully responsible. It was a weird coincidence thing that it happened subconsciously, and it's going to have long-term ramifications for everything else. I like that the random throwaway line by Oikura came back. The 20% of white matter that enters a mirror is completely destroyed, is exterminated, eliminated, I think we use is the word. And we're trying to pull that 20% at a certain point, right? We're trying to get that piece that has been eliminated and return the world relatively to normal. But again, I think the implication is that all the other characters are now going to be a little bit more cognizant of this side of themselves, of this invert, and that's going to lead to plot things happening. The example we use is that based on this Rainy Devil stuff and the presence of Guy and Toei and everything else in between, I think that like Kambara is going to dream more about her mother, which is exactly what happens in Monogatari. So again, I think we're leading off to have more arcs about the girls at various points, right? It's probably a lot of what Augie's teasing at the start of Monogatari is about, now that we know that, again, they're relatively on the same page. They're not as antagonistic as I thought they were, Araragi and Augie. They just approach similar situations from different areas. Again, speaking about Monogatari, considering it's the latest piece in our timeline. So we have those conversations with like Kombaru and Augie, right? But also, like, there's the stuff with Araragi and Kambaru as well. So they're kind of reflecting each other on different ends of the arc, or having these conversations trying to pull Kambaru in various directions. This one here is a small one. Augie was responsible for telling Black Hanakawa to save Araragi from the Rainy Devil. Basically, exactly what Araragi guessed the first time. There wasn't a big twist here, really. The next one, the events here will have ramifications in the future of the story, i.e. specialists will probably keep a close eye on Araragi and by extension Augie. This could have future ramifications for plots for arcs as well, right? Like, Guy and Izuku is probably keeping an eye on this and being like, that's not great. That's not in the service of keeping things like as they should be. Not quite using the word proper, but in a very similar way. Yeah, we'll see what she seems to think about everything else. She always has some kind of plan up her sleeve. And then, yeah, the conclusion of the conversation as well. Araragi can exit the mirror world by becoming sure of himself in the wake of everything. He says, I am Araragi Koyomi. What you see is what you get. And then the mirror world phenomenon ends. And Augie kind of falls out of a window, which is weird too. I don't really understand that. He wakes up the next day, still unsure about things, but is greeted by Senju sporting a bit of a different look. It's an interesting one. I don't know if I'm fully on board with it, but, you know, it looks okay. We'll take the twin tails every single time, by the way. What a great haircut. That's a bit weird. But anyway, continuing. At some point, we get to talking about regrets and how the various regrets of Araragi pulled various people into the mirror stuff. So this is a bit of my interpretation as well as what's in the show. So the reason why we see all these characters inverted, again, is based kind of on Araragi POV, but also on their internal stuff, right? It's almost like Araragi's decision with Augie is now playing out with everybody else in a weird way as well. In a way that's quite weird. So we're going to see a lot of similar Augie sense of self-discovery discussions through the lens of different characters, right? The first glimpse into that is, again, Kambaru Monogatari. So on that list, we at least have another arc for Nadeko, probably some more stuff with Sodachi. I don't know, other characters there in between, maybe some more Augie stuff even. I don't really understand how you do more with Hachicuji at this point, but sure, let's go for it. And yeah, as I've said before, this will have ramifications into the future, right? Like, this will become more and more clear to characters as a result of our, like, events here. There will be, like, we've dropped a stone in the pond, there will be ripples, right? That's what I'm thinking. And then we get to the best reveal of all, I think, which is just very sweet. Araragi has never had any regrets as it pertains to Senju, which is why she isn't present in the mirror stuff. That's why she hasn't been around. That's very cute. I've written here, "Aw," because that's very, "aw," to me. I think that's very sweet. It still doesn't... I like her presence on screen, as demonstrated by her presence in like the end of the episode. I thought it was fantastic. Such a great voice as well. But you know, that sits well with me. Sure. Other than that, I'm like, what, do you guys hate Senjugahara or something? She's just never around. And then, as I've talked about, the episode ends with a whole big thing tying in the stuff about regrets that we talked about, and like doing things correctly and orderly. And which foot do I use at the traffic light? Again, we've talked about traffic light, decision point, danger, safety. Which one do we choose? Where do we go on that? Junction, crossroads, traffic accident, street signs, fucking ton of shit to dive into as it pertains to traffic lights, right? It pays off on all of it, right? Instead of worrying about which foot to take first, you dive right in. You experience life. If a fucking car runs you over, car runs you over. You can't be too cautious about these kind of things. And hand in hand with a person that I trust implicitly, the person that's the love of my life, at least to this point in time, again, high school stuff. You know what I mean if you've been there. It makes it easier to take like leaps of faith. That's my point. If you have somebody hand in hand with you that supports you wholeheartedly. So yeah, that's just fantastic, right? Bringing in a lot of the civil engineering stuff about Senjugahara and the Orgi traffic light stuff, and it's all just in a big mix pot, and it's very good. It's also executed well. I think I don't talk about it enough, but aesthetically, this is probably up there with the best Monogatari has looked. Like and sounded for the record as well. Like the music's fantastic. There was a particular organ piece that killed. There was the piece during this part of the story as well. I thought it was great. And just there was these very specific shots of both Araragi and Senjugahara art style change that I thought looked quite good as well, and kind of hit on very purposeful lines that probably stood out in the novel as well. And yeah, for the record, I think knowing all of this and then re-experiencing the start of the arc would probably lead to a way better set of interpretations from myself, right? It's the like Araragi's pretty much responsible, even subconsciously, for a lot of it. That changes up again all my misgivings about the Nadeko stuff. So much of it is based on Araragi's POV of Nadeko, so that fits better for me now, right? Because again, purposely, he never got to see any of the stuff we saw in Koi Monogatari. Right, he was very, very not present. And the Sodachi stuff as well, it manifests in a lot of like his interpretation of her regrets around the situation. Which again turned out to be correct, but I digress. Anyway, we've talked about it enough. It sits better with me, is my point. You kind of need this. Again, this should be consumed as one piece of media, as opposed to into episodic chunks. And I would recommend that other people do the same with it, even though it's very, very long. As a result, how long would it be, actually? Let me have a look there. Yeah, easily over a couple of hours, probably a couple hours, and I would say like 10 or 20 minutes, something like that. So pretty long little film there. But yeah, I would say it's worth it to consume it in that manner. And yeah, on that note, I think we'll dive into like some actual look at the episode itself. Otherwise, I'm going to be here all day. But again, I think I've talked about a lot of it already. Kept you waiting, huh? Yeah. So in the start of this part, it's going to be a lot of like, and a lot of the shots saying we're still very suspicious of Orgi and her role here. When in reality, she kind of did nothing wrong. She just kind of got pulled into here as well, and weirdly kind of trapped in the weird classroom. Because again, this is kind of her birthplace in a weird way as well. So full cards on the table. I thought that Araragi being in the girl's uniform was a setup for a joke where Senjugahara would walk in and be like, "Araragi, what the hell are you wearing?" I could have sworn that was where we were going. But no, we never really even use that. The closest we get is some ribbing from Orgi here, which again, I don't know, you're wearing a boy's uniform, that's weird. This kind of stuff reminds me of the last day of school, where it was like, oh yeah, boys try on girls' uniforms, girls try on boys' uniforms. It was funny, it was pretty good. So Orgi is here in the titular Orgi classroom, and I think she's just kind of been here the whole time. Again, Orgi's not responsible here. Araragi is, as much as, you know, that's kind of the same thing. She says it's just a prank, bro, and then kind of all the everything like the setting changes, and now it's like more of a normal classroom than the weird glitchy Orgi classroom. The uniform thing's weird too. Like Araragi thought at one point he was turning into Orgi or something, and that was a weird meme plotline. it's not really the case at all. Again, Orgi isn't antagonistic here to my eye. She just kind of fucked with Araragi for a bit and kind of replaced his uniform because he can do that, or she can do that. Orgi is Orgi. I'm very happy that the resolution of the arc wasn't simply Orgi bad again, Orgi behind everything, because I think that's kind of lame. Araragi behind everything is only one step up from the lameness too, though, but I digress. I'm just happy it isn't antagonistic Orgi and then forgive her again, because we, like, just did that. So yeah, and all the talk about partner, I was half right, because it's half a... It means two different characters. It means Orgi, right, meeting up with his partner, Orgi, but also meeting up with his partner in the second half of the episode in Senjukahara, and her clarifying a lot of things and making him feel better about the whole situation, basically. I think both work here, and especially Hanakawa's line last episode probably like alludes to both. This face is great too, because Orgi's like, what the fuck are you thinking about? Molding me to be a substitute in your absence? Not quite. Not really there, really. There must be a lot going through your mind, Araragi, but you're overthinking it. And we all are, basically. Or at least I was. This is a great point as well, because I basically just forgot this. It was heavily implied that Orgi is responsible for the Black Hanakawa stuff. So, again, if she, like, wants to, like, replace Araragi or some weird shit, why would she be the one trying to save him, right? Doesn't make any sense. If you stand under too many thoughts, you'll be crushed under the weight. I would juxtapose this with the end where we're jumping ahead into whatever's next, right? 2 feet on the ground, jumping, weightless almost. Yeah, I like that too, right? Kind of a little bit of don't think, do to it, which I'm always an agreeer in, right? Procrastination bad. If you just get in and make a start, you're going to be there in the end. And again, this is more for myself than anyone else as well. I'm a terrible procrastinator. I'm just bad at it. Has it ever crossed your mind that this is a dream? This can almost be seen as a test for Araragi himself as well, this whole storyline. I don't know what this design's about either, but it's probably referential, knowing Monogatari. Yeah, it's him checking himself. So this is a dream, but what stops everything else from being a dream? What is real? What makes me me? Oh no. And he comes to the right answer. It doesn't matter if it's a dream or not, right? I've still got these lessons. I'm still sure of myself. There's definitely a bit of philosophy to this, right? A little bit of I think, therefore I am, right? Like, all this could be a simulation. I could be in a simulation right now, right? All that matters is that I think it's real. I can see myself. I can feel myself. I can tell my own thoughts, right? And if everything else is a simulation, who fucking cares? I've got that. I've got enough there. I think that's kind of what Araragi needs to... he already knows it, right? He needs to confirm that he's learnt this lesson, you know? Also, on a meta point of view, everything being a dream is kind of lame. Again, it's more of an emotional storytelling point. Here's the shot of Araragi slaying, so... shoutouts to that. We need some nail painting emojis in chat, please. We do this at 3 or 4 points during the episode. We recap a lot. And I think this is what we mean by this episode is halfway between epilogue and start of new story. So I think the events here, specifically the mirror stuff, is going to spin out to a bunch of different arcs for different characters, right? Again, right? So I think there'll be, again, as I've said, more Nadeko stuff, more Sodachi stuff, more Hachikuji stuff, potentially. Like, you know what I mean there. But it's also wrapping up. It's also in summary. It's also trying to make some inferences from everything that's happened and check Araragi on his learnings. What if this is all a dream? Are you okay with that? What's your response? And he passes with flying colors, which is good. I mean, I'd hope he would have. I like getting really close to him here, right up in his face, fully absorbing his thoughts. Put this up there with the creepy shot of Oyakura during Owari Season 1. I don't like this. I'm not a big fan of that one. And I really like the editing technique here, as Augie says, oh yeah, what if it was all a dream and all these different things, even reconciling with Augie? What if even up to this point it had all just been fake, basically, not impacting the real world as we know it? What is real? What is fake? What is this mirror world as it pertains to the real world? Are they the same thing? Like, all these questions rushing around Araragi's head, fast cuts in the editing, text on screen, like zoom in on Araragi's face. He's overwhelmed with information. What choice will he make? And they keep up the tension here for quite a long time. There's some very tense music playing, like very fast-paced, strings, high strings. And this here is kind of the manifestation of what he says, right? I would get up, wake up, that was a nice dream. stretch, and walk on with my day. Go about my day in high spirits. Good. You learnt lesson from show, right? Most of the show is in here, right? And learning in here. And this shows good in here health for Araragi. We love that. Yeah, and Augie being the troll that she is, right? Like I retract my hypothesis. All right, fine. I was just teasing you. I was testing you, checking if you were still all there. Yeah, I trolled you. I tested you. All sorts of stuff. Again, Augie talking to Araragi in isolated setting is basically like internal conversation with myself. And I passed. Very cool. And then we cut to the chase and we start actually talking about some real stuff. Augie does the classic Augie thing and reverse it on Araragi. I don't know anything, you know everything. You figure it out. The reason you're awkwardly cosplaying as me is because you were too slow on the uptake. Figure it out some more. Think about it. This is the first step, and this leads to us realizing that it isn't a world. It is the same world. There's no world on the other side and then world on this side. It's the same world the entire time. All that matters is reflection in mirror, perception of oneself, and pulling out the piece that remains, the piece that cannot be observed. Therefore, there's no stuff about changing into girl's uniform. There's no stuff about Augie being the Araragi here. None of that really even matters. It can matter metaphorically, but not physically, I don't think. This is where we talked about it. It pissed me off seeing you shamelessly flirt with Oyakura, so I, switched your uniforms. That's why I'm wearing the boys' one. Where does Augie, store her clothes? Thoughts? I've never really even seen her out of the uniform. Does she wash? Does Augie bathe? I'm asking, the real questions here. This explains this one. I was behind the smile you saw in the sink when Tsukihi-san was washing your face. So yeah, when we saw that little smile, that was Augie. But not Augie in the way we thought it was Augie, if that makes any sense. It's a very cool effect with the lighting. I wonder how hard something like that is to do. I wonder how we're generating this room. Is it a genuine 3D space? And then, such an effect would be a little bit easier, I think, than genuinely animating it. I don't know. I wish I was better about that kind of stuff. It's interesting that Augie can manipulate a few things whilst confined to this classroom. Could still kind of move out to the real world, kinda. And I was hoping to heighten your sense of urgency. That kind of worked. It spurred Araragi on even more to keep pursuing certain lines. We asked the direct question, are you my equivalent in this world? No, I'm your double, your personal Oshino Augie. I don't exist on one side of the mirror or the other. When when you do certain things, we're two peas in a pod, right? We can't really be separated like that. This may be hard to believe, Araragi, but I'm thankful for you, right? You saved me from the darkness, so I'd like to repay you. Araragi just kind of doesn't take that lead and just kind of keeps talking. He's like, well, that aside, right? It brings me back to my initial question. Where did the inside-out Araragi Koyomi of this world go? And this spurs Augie to start talking about the reflectivity of mirrors. Right, and that's where we start to talk about that missing 20%, kind of what Oyakura was talking about earlier in the show. The reflectivity of mirrors is 80%, generally, right? On one hand, that means your reflection is blurred. On the other hand, that means the missing 20% was erased instead of reflected. It was executed, for the lack of a better word. The only problem, right? I think Araragi kept his around in our grand metaphor, right? This is his side, right? This is his piece of light that wasn't reflected back, right? And then we're applying similar principles to everybody else. I think that's kind of my interpretation. Araragi then has the hypothesis that, am I the missing 20% right now that's living in this weird bizarro space after being eliminated? Not quite. You jump into the wrong conclusion here, as he and I have been this entire time, basically. It's nice that he has empathy for this missing 20%, though. Again, because I think you're metaphorically kind of that as well. I like hey, and then we put our hands together. That's pretty good gear. I like that. And it serves hey, we're both reflecting each other's internal. We're both each other's invert, right? We wouldn't be able to touch hands like this if there was some kind of glass barrier between us. Essentially, if you want to go inside the mirror, you want to take a trip to the mirror world, you must first physically slip through this glass. And we've already moved past this barrier. This is weird too, vampires can't enter a room without permission, right? But they can drag things out. So, Araragi himself, being a vampire, or a spawn of a vampire, whatever, couldn't enter the mirror world if such a world existed without being invited in first. which again isn't something that I've really been observing throughout the rest of the show, but whatever, we'll stick with it. The point is he reached into the mirror and pulled out. He can pull anything out of the mirror, right? He can pull stuff that he shouldn't out of the mirror and pull it into our world and throw things topsy-turvy, right? And this talks to one of the things that I wanted to talk about as well, which is our conversations earlier in the arc about individual and setting, and individual impacting setting and setting impacting individual. Now we can very much see the individual impacting the setting. Araragi is the catalyst here. He's thrown everything into disarray in a way that I think only he could, being this very important character to what's going on. But at that same time, he's being assimilated by the setting that he produced on himself, right? This very orgy-like setting. This very proper setting that we have going on. Yeah, there's some stuff there for sure. Yeah, you're thinking backwards, Araragi. Even if vampires can't slip through the glass, they can pull things out of it. Oh, this is cool too. Okay, so he would reach out and get that missing 20% right out of the mirror if he reached into such a thing. And him pulling out this missing 20% is, again, catalyst for this other character stuff that's going on, right? Things can return to normal, but they'll never be the same again, basically. There's also this little split frame somewhere that just says death. Yeah. Hang on, I'll find it. Yeah, see? Death. The missing 20% death that has died. You resurrected it. So yeah, Araragi is responsible for turning a mirror world into this world. Now, speaking about such concepts, is this an actual reference to End of Evangelion? Probably not, considering it doesn't even really look like that. It's more standing on top of the world than more in a open space like this. Yeah, kind of not really, right? That's not really what we're getting at here visually. I think you can, especially based on this slash film, very, very... Listen, it's very deep, the End of Evangelion. It's more than a dive into the subconscious. It does remind me of Monogatari in a lot of ways, though. Especially the TV ending, how it's just kind of like concepts. It made me think of it at least, and I think that's quite cute. And as I've talked about, definitely matches thematically, as so much of this is about subconscious. It's literally two portions of Araragi talking to himself and his impact on everything else. Here's another thing we need to look up, the Kunibiki legend. Okay, Kunibiki legend. Let's break this down. So basically, it's like a land-dragging myth. Izumo, I believe, is the area, right? And then we had a god, and then he's dragging pieces from various other areas into his area, right? Sure, in so much as dragging something to create something else, dragging something from somewhere else, somewhere currently unseen, into our space, sure, I'll take that. In a similar way, we can talk about how setting is impacting Monogatari, right? Even in a similar way to how all the Shinobu stuff came about, just kind of falling into that or diving into that lake, right? And that being the catalyst for the entire show. I think in a similar way, land is impacting the story once again, at least metaphorically, by Araragi pulling a piece from somewhere else into this space, and then things moving off from there. This acting as even another catalyst in a weird way. That's what I'm getting. There could be another interpretation because, again, I'm not particularly knowledgeable on the myth, on the legend. So yeah, I think Araragi, after events of Orgy Dark, where he kind of already dragged the mirror to himself, right? Already saw his invert, already saw their invert, right? And then came together in a weird way, reconciled. Him kind of moving this off to the rest of the setting, this similar feeling. Pulling on that mirror, being unsure of himself in doing that, and those ramifications spilling off to everybody else. But be careful, Araragi. You do have power. You're very friendly with a very powerful vampire. You know a god personally, and then there's me, who's an amalgamation of every conceivable oddity, right? So be careful of what you do, basically. So the culprit wasn't Orgy, it was me. Which is kind of a weird oxymoron thing, but sure. Didn't we have some stuff about moon and reflected in water, and now there's two moons? Again, there's a line, a symmetry down the frame, and these are two sides of a mirror. I don't know, there's probably something there that somebody can speak to, just not me at this time. I'd give the alternate timeline Shinobu a run for her money. I've thrown the whole town into disarray. You most certainly have. It's less that we're in a weird world, it's that you made the world weird. Calm down, it isn't like it's it's untenable. It's not like it's not fixable. Unlike the Kunibiki legend, you didn't actually do any of the physical pulling here, only the emotional side. And if that side's a contrivance, then so is this side. That doesn't mean we're not out of the bind. To take a page from your book will make everyone treat this like a nice dream. As a result, everybody's having like a weird dream about this internal version of themselves. Again, I'm thinking acting as a catalyst for things going forward. Wasn't there some stuff about Kambaro having weird dreams about being Rainy Devil as well? I do not know. This, I think, is important as well. All these desks stacked up on the train tracks. Again, signage, stopping point, traffic light. Even invoking some of the stuff, some of the train stuff in Suruga Monkey, bringing forth the idea of danger. We're under strict surveillance from the specialists. People like Guy and Izuko, if they get wind of this, we could be in strife again. Just very gorgeous shot. I don't talk about it enough. The show looks excellent. Even if Guyan is already like omniscient and knows what's going on, I don't think she'll be mad at you, considering the implications to Toei. She left behind that vestige to Guy and Toei in this town. Although that was a godsend, I don't believe she did it intentionally. That's the reason why Guy and Toei can exist in this weird space. But without Toei-san's help, it wouldn't have gotten you to me, and now we've discovered this together and we can end what's going on. The music here is just excellent. I don't know about this weird sand part though, that's a bit strange. At least it's different though. I don't know what any of this is about. We're talking about like Guy and Toei, Guy and Izuko, Hanakawa. Like Hanakawa changed interpretation, like didn't want to let friends go, and that's why she helped or something. Yeah, basically this is explaining everybody's point of regret, right? And everybody's catalyst for what they were in this inverted world. All those things they either forgot or wanted to forget, you brought those forsaken traits over to this side, creating a proverbial mirror world, bringing forth that 20%, that piece that was eliminated or at least wanted to be eliminated. Is it possible to revert this world back to its rational state? We can't revert it per se, but we can proceed with that extra 20%, at a full 100%, not just the 80% we've seen up to now. Everyone regained what they lost, if only for a moment, so there will definitely be some side effects. There'll be lasting signs of your influence. For example, Kambaru-senpai might be dreaming of Toei-san for a while, Catalyst spinning off into Hanamonogatari, and I see this as the blueprint. This is what will happen for many other characters, right? Araragi, ripple effect on the rest of the story from here. It's kind of like, again, Araragi's decisions in Orgy Dark, like, rippling out to everybody else, and them going through their own little Orgy Dark-esque experiences, even if not entirely the same thing, at least close. Again, character having impact on setting. Yeah, we said explicitly here, right? We have a test case for such a thing, right? You foolishly saved me from being absorbed by the darkness, did you not? My uncle may have endorsed the plan, but that doesn't mean the rest of the specialists were also in favor. Small side note, I like that she's still calling him my uncle, because that's very, very important. There must have been a few bigwigs left that wanted me gone, including myself. I wanted me gone as well by the end. But this time around, I acted as your failsafe. I acted... I helped you fix what was going on, or at least helped you discover it, which means there was already value in keeping me alive. I've now provided sufficient proof of my harmless nature. Yeah, kinda. Sure, I buy it. Alas, there will be hell to pay if we leave this situation as is. Guy and Son could muster up the courage to come and confront her sister. So what do you say? We could try and live in this irrational world forever? One last choice, right? Do you want to live in such a place? So yeah, in retrospect on this arc, Araragi is barking up the wrong tree like a lot. Hence why this arc is particularly bad for me, who's at least trying to take Araragi for his word. He's just barking up the wrong tree. He just thinks the wrong things a lot this arc. Which is fine, like him coming to the realization by the end of what's going on is a satisfying experience still. Just not fantastic for my format where I stop and talk for a long time and try to be all smart and stuff. Araragi here makes the choice that he wants to move on instead. He wants to go to the next portion of his life. Yeah, from now on they'll pick up after each other. Sounds like an unequal treaty to me. So wait right there, Araragi. I've got this disc of pure darkness. It's the titular Orgy Darkness. It's back. So here's an entity that swallows all light in the darkness. No 80%, 20% split for this one. It's a big old 100%. As with our little metaphor, we can consider this a mirror with like 100% absorption. It kills everything and has zero reflectivity. If light goes into it, it doesn't escape. There's nothing better to do in captivity, so I stayed in this weird classroom and fashioned this thing out of whatever was lying around, which I think is just a convenience. I think it works metaphorically, so we don't need to believe it physically, I don't think. The blackboard's a nice justification, though. I think that's clever. You ride on a blackboard, too. There could be some riderly stuff there. You plan to go back to Shirahebi Shrine at some point. You take this, it's a sacred artifact, offer it to the shrine, and it'll probably fix things. Consider it a welcome gift for Hachikuji. There's also some weird shots here. So these look like they're at a camera in the classroom, right? But then these here look like it's like a phone camera, like somebody's filming them. I don't understand, but sure. What'll happen when I place this? It'll suck that extraneous 20% of light you ushered in. Those regrets were meant to fade into obscurity, but it's a god's duty to accept them. So then, yeah, we give that to Araragi. Very, very cool. So again, but this will still have ramifications, is my point. It's not just fixing everything. Araragi pauses here. He doesn't really... He's still quizzitive about one thing in particular. I get that I salvaged that lost 20% from the other side of the mirror, but again, what served as the catalyst for what's going on here? What made these things happen? What made the mirror act the way it did in the first place? Why did he seek to grab that part of the mirror, at least subconsciously? He only reached for it because there was something off in his reflection. It didn't track correctly, right? His perception of himself wasn't the same as he thought it was internally, right? There was a mismatch. The reflection specifically had stopped moving, right? Like, again, this outward perception of me, based on me being a high school student, had stopped. I had graduated. So this is the manifestation of that. Again, very, very obvious thing in retrospect. It was like my first thing that I said. And it was the answer. We were overthinking it. Augie says she's going to follow her predecessors. You'd imagine Guy and Toy in some weird way. I'm going to push you in the right direction. I'm going to give you a little hint. Who exactly are you, Araragi? Who is you? Do I have to say it out loud? Since she prepared the setup, it's up to me to deliver the punchline. Even such a lazily written story deserves such a proper conclusion. Self-deprecating humor there. Throws up that black mirror into the sun. I'm Araragi Koyomi. What you see is what you get. And then, yeah, I don't know, Augie commits suicide or something. Yeah, Araragi became a little bit more sure of his sense of self. That's what I get out of this, right? And that being the major thing that he needed to do to progress, right? He needed to be sure, he needed to be certain, and even if he's uncertain, it doesn't matter either way, you just gotta go. Again, linking into the stuff at the end with Senjo. So yeah, and then everything's fixed. We offer this to the shrine. Hachikuji's back being small Hachikuji. She's sweeping up. Is just going to sit here now. And then here, it's the next morning, and it's Senjukahara in an outfit. So she's got weird boots on, like a cardigan, like a weird midriff, a blue skirt, and some twin tails. Sure. Go for it, I guess. I like how they're moving too. That's pretty good. And Araragi seems over the moon. I decided it's about time that I stopped living in Hanakawa's shadow, so I gave myself a makeover. What do you think? Literally in one day you did this too, which is strange. I am very happy we got to see Senjukahara one last time before the end. I think this scene's great. I think this is fantastic. I think this serves as a nice bow on almost everything. This is very, very good epilogue-y stuff. So they kind of walk around, right? She does a little bit of a very Spanish clap. Probably the ole as well, right? Anyway. Basically, Araragi tells the story of what happened to Senjukahara. Some of the other arcs are structured like this as well. Specifically, Owarimonogatari, I believe? Right? I think. Is we're telling Senjukahara after the fact, and she's providing oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Sure. I knew you were excited at your first post-graduation incident, but the message was way too preachy. There was no message. It's kind of halfway in between. I wouldn't say it's preachy, but there isn't no message either. I'd say it's very poignant. And then weirdly, Senjukahara makes the wrong implication from the thing. It wasn't about him being him being infidel? What's the present of infidelity? Anyway, whatever. It wasn't me being promiscuous, right, with other girls, and not you. That wasn't the point. I think you're missing the point. They also walk through a bunch of various famous locations in Monogatari. My favorite here being, of course, Mr. Donut in the Arizonan desert. It's my favorite. It's my favorite location for sure. In the end, what was the point? Like Sejigahara says, like, what was your reflection doing that was weird? Why did it stop moving? Araragi replies, like I said, it symbolized my regret. It was the version of myself I left behind after graduating and losing my title. And again, graduating, moving on from high school being a metaphor for the experience of the show, of adolescence, of moving on. I was holding on to those regrets a little bit and the memories of everything I've done up to this point. As an unintended consequence of this feeling, I managed to salvage that lost 20% and throw everything into chaos. When I saw myself in the mirror for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was forgetting something important. As Augie suggested, from this whole mess that I created, I needed to do some soul searching. My sentimentality in particular, and my power in doing so, set this town into a mirror world for 2 days. I should keep an eye on that, it's pretty important. Senjokahara says, I'm curious what kind of person I'd be in a world where everything's inside out, right? And as we've talked about, it's based broadly on regret. This is very cute. I like this part. Also, this shot here, this is almost like the very start of the show too, where where Hanakawa's kind of walking past, right? At that very first point in like spring break, right? I think so. That's the whole vibe, right? Like the start of Bake is weird because it rushes through Kizu very quickly. So yeah, never ran into Senjukahara. I'm glad you were being a little bit considerate, but I wish you would be a little bit meaner because I'd find it kind of interesting to see that other version of me. So what, in essence, was your regret? Did you address it? According to Augie-chan, I resolved the situation by addressing it, which in turn allowed her to create that black mirror, right? So, Augie is already a representation of basically every other internal struggle of Araragi put into a singular being. Her creating this black mirror is then, in turn, a metaphor for the same thing, right? And understanding that and seeing that helped us fix everything, right? You following me? Therefore, Araragi coming to terms with all these little regrets as it pertains to all these different characters is what kind of fixed everything in a weird, very metaphorical kind of way. The thing is, it wasn't a particular one regret, right? It was a manifestation of many regrets to the different characters. These regrets are shared between the girls and Araragi, as much as the girls as they were my own. They were their 20% as well as my 20%. Emotions that had been lost and abandoned. And then again, like many portions in the episode, we go into various specifics about the characters and like their regrets, which we've talked about a lot. Not to mention the classroom in particular, which housed like a ton of regrets. I can't say I've graduated with a clean conscience, nor can I say that I've overcome my regrets. As I talked about before, I don't think anybody ever can. All I did is remember them and confront them, which is probably good enough. I can't carry them all with me, but it's fine if I reminisce about them from time to time. That's kind of what this arc was. Him just checking. It's a checkpoint. He's checking with himself that everything up to this point in the story has been okay with him. And yeah, it was very simple. He passed. Very cool. Also, this shot is very similar to a later shot of Senjukahara that we'll see, which is almost like a different art style, very pretty, very bright light, and a very very hot Araragi. Very cool. Very handsome young man. But your uncertainty at this whole thing makes me more curious, says Senjukahara. Which one of these was the regret, right? The differences between everyone's perception of you seems to be a hint. The ideal Araragi Koyomi versus the reflected Araragi Koyomi. Now this is interesting, right? Because everybody seemingly had a different view of what their Araragi Koyomi was. Which now makes a whole lot of sense, right? Considering perspective. Like what they thought he should be versus what he was versus is that even really what he was, really to himself? However, there's only one thing that I'm certain of. Pull Senjukahara in to cuddle. She loves it. I have absolutely no regrets when it comes to you. Hence why you weren't present in the arc. Very cool. Very cool, Nishio-san. I like this decision. Yeah, we'll be together forever. And then Senjukahara in classic Senjukahara style. Save that for after your exam results. If you failed, we'll split up. Again, look at all these traffic lights in the background. Like, what else is this point trying to say? We're at a crossroads. What do we do at the crossroads? Are we hesitant? Are we nervous? What should we do? Again, giant metaphor. Araragi waiting at traffic light, waiting for the light to turn green, and then what foot am I going to put forward, right? Is it going to be my left foot or my right foot? A decision point. Again, a crossroads, right? Well, what do I choose out of this V? right? If only there was some superstition, if only there was some aberration, some occult thing that would help me decide, that would make the decision for me. However, Senjogahara has different ideas. More and more I think about it, my brain knows I have to move forward, but my feet are at a loss. There's a mismatch, right? As a result, I'm paralyzed. There's things I know I should do, but I don't do, right? Which I think everybody can relate to. Hesitance. My mind and my body are at odds, but in the end, I think we all need somebody like a Senjogahara in our lives, right? Just snap out of it. What are you talking about? Goes to laugh at me. Thank you, Senjogahara. If you don't know whether to step forth with your right or left foot, just do this, and then do like a weird spread leg jump. I think it's meant to be like a frog jump, right? It should be a crab jump. Now that would be epic. Yeah, but the light goes perfectly green and my manic pixie dream girl takes me by the hand and jumps across the road with me. Perfect. This is the male fantasy, by the way, right here. Like a frog, not a kangaroo, pulled into the explosive dash of a former track and field star. This is all very well written. It's actually beautiful. I launch myself forward so as to not fall behind. Proceed with that extra 20%. I jump in the direction of the light. The light that was missing. This never-ending tale draws to an end. Kind of. I remember my memories and repress my regrets, with aftertastes and afterthoughts to spare. Then he winks his eye, right, and then looks towards navel region of girl, very similar to the start of the show, where again it starts with Araragi blinking, and then we have a 10-second panty shot, which is very epic. But yeah, we're off to the next tale. I think that's a ribbon in her hair flying. Oh yeah, she's got long flowing hair now. It stopped being tied up, which I'm sure is a metaphor for something as well, like hair tying, trying to be somebody else, let it flow free. Sure, we'll take it. And then I think we're just into ED. Oh yeah, we leap. Sure. Leaping good. Then Zoku Owarimonogatari gets fucking Thanos, and then into the ED, right? Yeah. We're done if VLC wants to behave. Very cool. So let's talk about arc itself before show itself as a whole. I think the last episode does a lot for it. I think you do need to watch it all in one go. I feel like my opinions on the early parts are very different based on the later parts. A lot of Aragi's early theories get chucked in the fucking bin, right? For some reason in particular, this arc was very, very bad for bad faith theories early in the season not panning out. Because again, they're irrelevant. He was overthinking it the entire time. That was the point. I like all of our decisions here. I think it works as a graduation metaphor. I think it works as a checkpoint at the end of the series that like a test, right? This is our little test. What did you learn, Araragi? And I think he passed with flying colors. Augie almost being the facilitator of this test in a weird way. Again, Augie being a weird manifestation of his regrets, and then this weird mirror thing being a manifestation of those regrets even again. Listen, you got to kind of look between the lines in this one a little bit, because on a base level, the story just kind of isn't even there. I think it's intriguing seeing the different interpretations of the characters. That's fun. But you kind of need to look for something deeper because the plot itself, when written out, isn't all that flash, which is fine. It doesn't need to be. Not a lot of Monogatari arcs even are, in my opinion. I think there's interest in the way it's told, but the story itself and the events there are never the star. But yeah, I think the last part with Senjogahara is beautiful. I think it stands as a good lesson to take out of Monogatari as a whole, and the lessons learnt there. The stuff with Augie early in the episode kind of beat around the bush a little bit much. You could probably cut 4 minutes off of there somewhere, I think. But I think, the concepts we discuss, somebody may find those more interesting than the ones that I talked about here today. And I did talk for quite a long time, an hour and 20 minutes right now, so there's stuff there. If people have more insight into that Kunibiki stuff as well, that would be great. And then I guess show overall, very good. It has its high points, it has its low points. I think its high points are very, very fucking high. I think its low points are relatively low. Not super low though. I don't think there's anything that I would call outright trash in here. But again, I'll leave a lot of that ranking stuff till next week. Would I recommend the show? Hell fucking yeah. You should watch Monogatari. It's very good. Try to go in with an open mind. try to take notes, I would say. It's not an easy watch. It's not a frivolous watch. A lot of it is dialogue based. You can tell it's based on a book. I think more often than not, we're hitting on something real. And I think that's impressive, right? I think something that's resonating to me. I think me in my current age is the target demo, and I think that it's doing a good job there. Maybe even a little bit earlier, maybe like a 19-year-old would get a lot out of Monogatari, I think. A very, very smart 19-year-old, I think. Or at least thinks they're smart. And maybe that might teach them a couple things. I don't know, I'm kind of rambling. It's very good, Monogatari. And I think Zoku Owarimonogatari sticks the landing. I think it does a lot to justify the rest of the arc and make it all make sense. And I think I've kind of talked about it enough, so we're going to kind of leave it there. Again, next week we're doing some tier lists. Please contact me with tier lists on Discord and stuff. Or on YouTube's weird about leaving links, so maybe leave that one, unless you've got a specific search term for tier maker or something. Either way, leaving today happy. Very happy with what I saw, which is good. It's a good feeling. So chill stuff. If you like the video, consider liking the video. If you like the video and you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel. Comment below anything you thought of the episode, anything I could do to improve my presentation. Comment below. I'm doing follow for follow on Twitter, so follow me on Twitter if you'd like me to follow you back. And the Discord. Join Discord. Love Discord. Discord. Get those votes in for whatever the hell wants to be on the next poll, or maybe I'll just pick something. I haven't really decided yet. But yeah, that's it for Monogatari. Thank you for watching, everybody. But again, I'll leave all the gushy stuff for next week, I think. It was a ton of fun. And if you drop out here, then thank you for watching. Thank you very much. I enjoyed this very much. So yeah, this is for the last time. Goodbye. Goodbye, Monogatari. I'll see you. I'll see you sometime. I don't know. I'll probably rewatch it at some point. That sounds like me.